it's like all the pieces are there for the proposal. Like I can see everything I need, but it's like something that's just not quite clicking. So during these interviews, I'm using them to help me to see what my target audience is thinking. And it's a little frustrating because in my mind I kind of left it open thinking that people would just hurry up and jump on it. Silly of me to assume. All right, hello there, beautiful people. I am Dr. Vernita White. I go by Dr. V, the Brilliant Solutionist and Executive Coach Consultant for the highly ambitious, top performing, super elite overachievers, and all those in between. So actually, this is more of an impromptu video because I was supposed to do an interview with someone. I'm doing this series. It's kind of okay. So I didn't tell them. They'll probably see this after I do all of the interviews. But one, it's for content purposes. So it's not always just me showing up on my channel. Two is like a jump start to a podcast that I want to do. So I have like some old videos, like a series that I did before. And then I got the idea to do this, to interview like a select group of people. And I'm going to save those for the podcast eventually. And then it is also like market research for my book that's coming up. Well, I'm writing a proposal for my book, if you did not know, and I've already self-published 2 books. That is my latest book right there, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment. It is available on Amazon right now. And the first book I did was based on a book my mom wanted to write about. I think I shared this story a while ago, but she wanted to write. Her birthday was September 15th, and it's been 10 years since she passed. And she wanted to write a book. She was over part of the Christian education ministry at our church like years ago. She was really into teaching people practical applications about the Bible. Her sweet spot were young people, so the youth and young adults. So mainly like middle school to high school, and then college to, I guess young adults would be in the category maybe to like 35. I mean, I'm out of that range, but I still consider myself a young adult. But it was around like early 30s, I would say. That was her sweet spot, and I had the opportunity to watch her grow and teach in that area. So her book was about practical concepts to help people understand the Bible. And so that was my first book. Like I took her words, added my things in there, had my sister involved, and we created the book. I don't display it often because now I do not like the cover because it's like so childish, but that's just where we were at the time. So at some point I will definitely redo the book and have it up here. But anyway, so those were 2 self-published books. I mean, like I didn't like I went through a publisher, but it's not like I got a book deal to write the book. And this time I'm going after that. You know, one of my dreams is to be a New York Times bestselling author. And I don't know if you all are familiar with E.T., but it's been a while since I've actually watched somebody's process of hitting the New York Times bestseller list. And see them like in the moment of doing it, like as it's happening. The only person I've gotten close to seeing that with was Marie Forleo, but that's from some YouTube videos that she did a while back. So I don't know if she was documenting along the way and then released them, but by the time I saw them, they were like old, and it was for her book, Everything is Figure Outable, which is it's a great book, I think. And so, but that was the closest person I've seen through the process. E.T., I used to watch him way back in the day. And then it was like, okay, this dude is too much. And then I stopped, did some other things, and then he's come back around. And what I do love about him, and this is how I want to be as a coach, a personality, public figure, whatever the case may be, is still be consistent throughout. So he's still yelling in your face, nothing changed. But I realized that it was just a different space, and I didn't need that at the time, but now it's like, okay, that's the voice I need in the space and where I am trying to elevating or expanding. And so watching him talk about his book, I just got back on him like a couple of months ago, and he's been doing this 3 a.m. club. He has a conference coming up. I'm not able to attend because I'll be at another event. And it's funny because it'll be at a speaker's event and he's a speaker. But anyway, and just hearing him talk about the book and his conference, like how he's promoting. And I love it because, some people like only focus on one thing. And he's promoting his books. He's talking about his speaking. I mean, it's just a lot. And I feel that when you are a personal brand, when you are the brand, you get to promote whatever you want, because what you are displaying, and this is what I'm learning too, is my product really, or my service, is transformation and expansion, self-expansion, self-leadership, getting to know yourself and embracing your brilliance, going to the level that you desire, creating the life that you desire. And I used to think it was so cliche, but it's true. And obviously, if the people who were doing it now, if how can I say this? If there was no need for more people in this space, then one, they would have all of the clients, and two, we will be talking about something else. We won't be talking about reaching your goals, So I was like, you know what? There is space for me. So again, this is impromptu, so I didn't want to waste the setup. So just forgive me and follow me along, because this content is going to be made. So I'm just watching him, and as he's talking about this, and I actually got a chance to experience his virtual book launch. And I purchased the book, his U.O.U book, because I like that. I was like, I get to be a part of this. And one, I was like, I want people to do that for me. But two, he says something like that's very powerful. And I like to be, a student of my own work or my own words. And I remember when I was teaching college, every assignment that I gave my students, I did the work myself. So I never wanted to be in a place out of integrity. So he was like, if you ever watched a live, a YouTube video, a speech, if you and got something from it, anything from my free content, all I ask is for you to just purchase just one book. And some people were like, oh man, how are you going to talk about your book or talk about your conference? And what I love about it, like E.T. doesn't say much now. He has other people talking for him, not in a bad way, but people like I've had this before, where it's like, I don't need to argue, I don't need to say anything. People who've experienced my work and things, they will speak on my behalf. So it's kind of like that. And I remember people would come and say, do y'all know how much he gets paid to speak? I mean, he would talk about that, but then other people say, do you know how much he gets paid to speak? Or do you know how much his conferences are? Or how much it costs to work with him? And the amount of content that he has, where you could literally learn for free if you want to. Like, you can elevate yourself for free if you want to. And I know I've done that in a lot of ways with, one of my coaches. Well, a few of my coaches watched their videos and things like that and saw some transformation. So he's like, the least you could do, if you're going to keep consuming my content, is to purchase a book. And I was like, you're right, because one, I mean, I wanted to support, and two, I feel that way. The same way. It's like the least you could do, especially people who are talking about your prices and things like that, or not willing to pay those prices for your events or things like that. The least you could do is just purchase a book. But anyway, so watching that, and then he had this book launch. I went to the virtual one just to see it and hear all the people talking about him. I had never experienced anybody's book launch like that. And I don't know if he did anything live, or I think he's going on tours. I'm not sure. But just seeing the energy and the atmosphere for that. But I was able to see, like, I didn't jump back on the ET wagon when he first started writing the book. But I kind of caught it when he was like, okay, the book is going to the publishers, and then the publishers are, saying this, that, and the other. And him talking about how the publishers really aren't having faith in him, right? And so when I ordered the book, he had already written several books, and I didn't know that. I was like, E.T. has already written books. And so that kind of made me feel good. Yeah, and it goes both ways. Some people have never written a book and they get publishing deals. Some people are self-published and they've gotten book deals, or some people, they just, that's all they do. They just get multiple book deals like that. But I mean, there are different layers of book deals as well. So, and then he's already said, my goal is to hit the New York Times bestsellers list. So just watching him promote this, all of these months and talking about the pre-sales, because that is part of the game with the New York Times bestsellers list, and him coming on Instagram and saying like, we need this number of books, and just watching that whole process has been inspiring. I don't know if he made it yet. I'm going to say he did, and he made a point. He was like, I got like, I think a combined total of 4 million followers or something like that across all platforms, and there was a certain number of individual books that needed to be sold. And I just thought it was interesting how the number that he's requiring, or that he needed to cross that threshold, was a drop in the bucket compared to the people that were following him or supporting him. And he was like, people did support him. They bought the books in bulk, but he needed individual books. So I'm just thinking it's all fascinating, especially as I'm on my journey to write this book. I am out of my comfort zone, because writing a book proposal and submitting it is very different than, I'm just going to outline my book and do whatever I want to do, because it's very different. So all of that comes full circle to the type of interviews that I'm doing. And I was a little frustrated because I'm like, it's like all the pieces are there for the proposal. Like I can see everything I need, but it's like something that's just not quite clicking. So during these interviews, I'm using them to help me to see what my target audience is thinking. And it's a little frustrating, because in my mind I kind of left it open, thinking that people would just hurry up and jump on it. Silly of me to assume. Don't do that. And because I didn't want people to feel pressured to do the interview. And some people were so excited until they saw the structure that I had in place, because I was like, we're not just gonna just chat and show up and do a Facebook Live. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great content when you do that. But I wanted to have a different feel. And, it's like when you prepare a certain way, you show up differently. And it's just, some people were like kind of backing out. Some people were changing their minds. And I didn't get frustrated. I was strategic about who I selected. And then that pool got even smaller for the people who agreed to do it. And then I was supposed to do one today. I don't know what happened. So part of me is like, well, do I go chase behind the person and say this, that, and the other? But if you all saw my process on how I communicated, it was not a one and done. It was like, step one, if you agree, it was like a column. Here's this. Now, if you say yes, then we go these steps. If you say no, then you exit stage right, And so I'm thinking to myself, like, even though I know these people, I still wanted to have this level of professionalism and expectations. So I'm kind of going back and forth. And I was just thinking of like a lot of people who interview, especially on here on YouTube, or if you have a podcast. And it's like, I want to start in a way that I eventually want to end up or finish. I don't think, and I could be wrong because I don't know. I've never been interviewed by, huge name people. But I have done some formal podcasts when I was talking about education content. I've done some podcasts for some pretty big names. And their process was like, here it is, fill out this form, we can meet, we can do a test run, and then, keep it moving. Now, I don't include a test run, one, because I know these people, I don't know everything, but I know these people were in a select group. So I didn't feel the test run was necessary, but these people didn't send out a whole bunch of reminders. It was like, this is on the calendar a few days before we go. Here's some more information, and then I'll see you on that date. And sometimes it's like, I'm wondering, like, do I go back and forth? Do I chase people? And it's like, no, whether I know you or not, I don't want to start setting that up. And I'm learning that I am, and E.T. said this, and I know this. I have other coaches that have said this, but it's something that I need to put in my mind, is that I am a mogul in the making, but there's a mogul in here. If I have a desire to be a mogul is in here somewhere, right? And I'm a CEO, and not just a, let me do this side business, let me just do this coaching thing. Everything has to be a business. And so I was a little bit of like, well, should I text? Should I go do this? And I was like, no, because if I was at the level where I can see myself, I wouldn't be doing that. And I wouldn't even put it in my protocol for my assistant to reach out. Now, some people may disagree with that, but I feel like if we put things together, things are on the planner or on the planner school, on the schedule, you get these alerts, then it's like with anything else, when you look at your calendar and if something comes up, then you change that. I did have one person, and part of this was me because I wasn't looking at all the different ways to communicate. And she was telling me like an hour, 2 hours before that she wasn't able to reschedule. And she was like, hey, Dr. V, like, here's the thing. And it was like from Messenger to WhatsApp to my text and to email. And I was just in the zone of preparing. And that was a lesson for me. I was like, okay, my apologies, but thank you for reaching out. And the time that she reached out, it wasn't like 15 minutes before, oh, I can't show up. And so I respected that. And that was a lesson for me to like check all avenues of communication. So then she rescheduled immediately. And when it was time for us to do the interview, I set everything up. And she texted me. She was like, can I get just 2 minutes of grace period? And I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So when things like that happen, then I have to look at my process and was like, no, I did everything right. They get 3 notices and things like that. So I don't know the purpose of that rant, but I guess it's just looking at like how ET is showing up. That's another example. Seeing how my coaches have been in another light, and now seeing myself in the space where I want to go is trusting your systems and your processes, regardless if they're friends or not. Trust your system and process and be consistent. Yeah, be consistent, because and there's another thing, like another person I interviewed, they were like, and it could be me, y'all. Let me know in the comments below. It could be me, but it's like, hey, are we still meeting and this, that, because like they reached out to me, a couple of days, like the day before, and I didn't respond. My phone was off. It was some other things. And so then it's like, hey, I'm calling. Just want to see we're meeting because we're on the calendar. And I'm like, aren't we on the calendar? I didn't reach out to change the date. Are you calling me to reach out to change the date? But so some of that is me. Some of that is coming from my education background, where especially the college years, I tend to say a lot about my K-12 years, but in reality, I spent more time in higher ed than I did K-12. And so now I need to talk more about my higher ed experience. But we have to do a syllabus for every class, and it's detailed 16 weeks out or 8 weeks, depending on what kind of, program cycle you're on. And you lay out those dates well in advance. You do those assignments well out in advance. And you put it out there. Students know, put it on your calendar if things are changing. Because I used to do that, because when I first started in higher ed, I was bringing my K-12 experience in. And in K-12, we would have an overview of the lessons, the unit plans, like the whole year. Then it went down to semester. Then it went down to 9 weeks in units, and then weekly or bi-weekly. So I would do a lot of my lesson plans. I knew where we were going, but the deep dive lesson plans were always 2 weeks ahead of time, right? Because things change, especially when you're teaching children 5 days a week and you start seeing things like, oh, I need to either speed up, slow down, blah, blah, blah. But then when I got to higher ed, yes, I mapped out a syllabus, but I was more fluid, because I was like, I understand how learning works. And if you're too structured, and you're going to leave somebody behind. So I would lay it out, but then I would make adjustments, like, okay, well, now we need to do this job because the assignment that I had planned is not going to work out, this, that, and the other. I thought I was doing the students a service, but apparently they were so annoyed, and they would go and tell the department heads that I'm changing too much. They can't keep up with anything. And I was like, it's not like I just piled them. I was like, I gave you 2 weeks to do it. Oh, what's the problem? And then again, me coming back from when I was a student, I was like, okay, professor, get it done, whatever. So then that was another lesson. I was like, okay, fine. Now I turned into, this is what the syllabus said. Don't ask me about changing my dates. I don't, especially because I front load a lot of my work, like, hey, get it done. And I would stick to that. And of course, they still weren't satisfied. But I was like, no, because all the hell that y'all gave me in previous semesters, we're going to make sure we stick to this, well in advance. In every single class, I would talk about 3 assignments ahead of time. And we would spend 20 to 30 minutes because I was like, no excuses. So all of that to say is when I started transitioning, now really getting serious and focused on business and setting up systems, it's like, okay, I know the process to send out. I know what planning looks like. And if anything changes, you tell somebody, well in advance, or you look at your calendar, and if you see something on your calendar, but hey. So what are the lessons learned from that? One, stick to your process. If you have a process, stick to it. Send it to multiple people. It's like research too. Don't change the format because one thing doesn't work. You have to wait to get all of the responses back in time so you can see. And I'm processing this in real time because, again, impromptu. And because I know when I first started this, so I've been in business since 2016. I was doing some consulting, but truly, I was like trying to focus since 2019. And then some things were happening, got some business. And then it wasn't really until 2021 that I was like, coaching. This is it, right? And then I'll be honest, 2022, this year has been my first time at being a full-time entrepreneur. So I realized that I was changing a lot of different things. Oh, I got a text message. I wonder if it's the person. Nope. It's my BB. I'll get back to her. So I was like, well, where's my train of thought? Oh, I would like try to change up everything because I was like, okay, this is not working. And then I had to remember, like, well, you got a whole PhD. Let's rely on some of those research skills. Like, you put things out there and you give the data, the systems or the process or whatever you put out there time to work. And then you can collect the data. And I think that's where I kind of messed up in some places. This is what this channel is about. You can learn about some stuff. Kind of messed up in some places. And now it's like, no, trust your process. So in the interviews, I've done this process before and it worked. So I was like, let me try it again with a new batch of people or case studies. And some people were following it and some people weren't. But then when the people that followed it, it was a smooth process. So I said all that to say is don't change up too quickly, even if you're familiar with someone. Trust your whole process. Get feedback, just like I did when the other person was trying to contact me on these other platforms. Then that's like, oh, okay, let me make sure I cover everything. So now I look at everything, hours before, and I constantly check those. So that was something on my end. I've added that to my checklist. And I'll probably have somewhere where I say this is where you contact me. So again, that's something I put in my SOP for myself when it's time to do the checklist, check these particular places if the person is trying to contact you. The other lesson I learned is because, one, I just expected people to move as fast and as quickly as I do, and as quickly as some of the people that I work with. And that's not the case for everyone. So now when I do these interviews, I'll have a set block of time. And that's on me. Like, well, I don't want to inconvenience anyone. It was like, moguls don't worry about that. Moguls, like, this is what it is. And if you can fill in this gap, you fill in this gap. And I was like, okay. And I think I was more gracious with this group of people because like I said, we're in this select group. So it was kind of like, I know what y'all got going on. But then at the same time, when other people are operating at the speed, and it was like, okay, it's not just me. Another lesson, say what I mean, say what I need to say. A few people were shocked at how well I did the interviews. And it's easy to take offense to that because it's like, I've been doing stuff like this. Do you even watch any of my stuff? But then at the same time, and then I get this from ET, just show up as you always, always, no matter what. And it's not about like dimming your light. You know, I talk about that. Like sometimes it's not even about dimming your light. It's just, it's not, I need to figure out the word for it, because it's very different from dimming your light. It's, I don't know the word, I'm be honest. I don't know what it is. Turn the dial down. I don't know what it is, because I'm always going, I'm always me. I'm always me. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I have to come back to that. But just, I'll say be on. Maybe that's the better thing, to be on. Because I mean, honestly, and not even bragging, like I'm realizing like the magnitude of my energy and how I can impact and influence a room just by my presence alone, on being where we've been in this virtual space. But really, if I show up on camera, I can change the dynamic of certain places online. I own that. I can be quiet, nothing but just my presence. And so it's like my light is going to shine regardless. But I think the I'm just gonna say be on. I gotta dissect that more. So always be on. And I remember hearing all the people talk about ET, like he's the same way all the time. And not that I changed, but again, I'll come back to that, because I gotta process that, because it's not dim your light, it's not being fake, it's you're always in your power. And let me know if that makes sense to you. And then so that's one, because it's like, why are you shocked? You shouldn't be shocked, especially if they've been in your space. Then I started taking that on of, okay, I'm not doing something, I'm not fully operating, I'm not on. Okay, I'll come back to that. But it's something that I'm recognizing. I need to dissect that. So that was a lesson. Trust your process. Always be on. And don't get so upset when things don't work out. Like, I was supposed to be doing an interview, but right now I decided to come on and do some content. And I was going to talk about something totally different, but I think this video is getting a lot longer than I expected. So I might come back and do a part 2 of something that I actually want to talk about with my BB. So this was just a little chat with me. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. If you took away anything, let me know. If you're watching this, I'm seeing, what's the date? It is September 16th now. I'll try to have this video up. So if you're watching this in the month of September, my book is on sale for $9.26, because that is my birthday. And we'll probably keep that going, because I have some things that are coming up and about my book for this book. And that's the momentum that I'm using so I can prepare for my next book. You know, I was like, I put a lot of work into this book. I have a whole framework from this book. I coach from this book, and I think it's a good message and some good tools in this book. And I don't want to just cast it away because I have this new project. And I see this as like the forerunner, or the test study, or the subject. You know, it's like, if I want to hit New York Times bestseller with this book, then I want to, go hard with that book. I hope that makes sense. All right. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. Comment anything down below, any questions you have, anything you want me to clarify in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. I would love that. Trying to get this channel up and realizing more and more that I actually do love making videos and content for you all. Let me know some topics that you want to talk about. You'll see some videos like impromptu vlogs I have with my family, or conversations with families and friends, because I want this now to be a lifestyle channel. I think I have it as entrepreneurship, edutainment, and something else I have on there. But really, living a full, focused life. You know, I believe you can have everything that you desire and still be focused. And I want to start showing that more here on this channel. All right. So thank you again. Remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time. Bye.